Hey, what's up guys, Rishi here and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm a strategy consultant and I live in London. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm actually going to be breaking down the royal family since the Harry and Meghan interview kind of broke the internet. Although I will say take it with a pinch of salt, I'm in no way, shape or form an expert on the royal family. I've just done a lot of research and I think I've got a bit of a unique perspective as someone who lives in the UK. But it's a bit cold out here, so let's go back in the studio. That was some sexy editing. Today we're going to break it down into a few different areas. So I'm going to go into my thoughts on the royals, then we're going to talk a little bit about my thoughts on the actual interview itself, and then I'll give you a little bit of a conclusion. I'll just break it down for you and I'll let you know my thoughts on the entirety of the situation. So, my thoughts on the royal family. I don't hate them, I don't love them either. They're a technical head of state, they're not really the head of state, and they don't have any real power. They bring in more money than we spend on them though. So there is something called the royal estate, which is essentially all of their land that they've had back in the day, and it's been passed down through kind of their family. Now, they've struck up a deal with the government, and essentially they've handed over all of their estate to the UK government, and they get paid a stipend from that. So I think the actual amount that the royal family get is around 82, 84 million, something like that. And their estate actually brings in around 247 million or something like that. I'll link down a really great video below from TLDR News that breaks down the royal estate really, really well. But essentially, they get paid a smaller amount, and we actually get a lot of money from them. So I definitely don't want them disbanded because it's just good for our country. Also, they bring in lots of money with tourists and stuff like that. So I think generally I'm for them. I actually have a large amount of respect for acting members of the royal family. I think it's a really difficult job, and obviously you don't really have any say in the matter, which is quite a big deal for me at least. So I have a lot of respect for those that stay and do their duty. At the same time, I don't kind of have any loss of respect for anyone within the royal family that kind of steps out of it, because in the end of the day, it's your life. And I think you should have some sort of say in the way that it is portrayed. So basically my thoughts, they're good, they bring in more money than they are paid, and I have a certain amount of respect for them. So my thoughts on the interview. First thing I kind of want to address is that I think it takes real balls to kind of go on national TV, or global TV as it were, and talk about your mental health. So I think Meghan did a really great job in kind of speaking about that in quite a candid way. And I think that brings a lot of strength to a lot of people that could be struggling. So, you know, kudos to her for kind of bringing that and addressing that. With that being said, I really didn't like how they were talking about their security. The couple both were talking about how they had to pay for their security needs. And I understand they may feel that they need that, but the fact of the matter is that they are not acting members of the royal family. Therefore, they do not need the security of the Queen, for instance. And the second thing is that the way in which the security of the royal family is actually paid for is from the public purse. So the Metropolitan Police have to pay for that, and it's a really expensive ordeal. So I don't think they can claim that they should get security paid for by, you know, the public purse when they're not doing their job. It's like me saying, oh, I'm a consultant, but I don't want to do my job, but I still want my free coffee and I still want my free lunches and dinners and drinks and stuff. You can't do that. You can't have the best of both worlds. So the next thing I kind of want to talk about is the whole racism element that they brought up quite clearly in the interview. Meghan and Harry both mentioned that a member of the royal family commented on how dark the baby was going to be, and that's obviously a really challenging issue. Now, I think that's not a completely baseless claim. Being a person of colour, I really do think that there is some institutional racism, and it's from kind of the older generation. I'll explain it like this. My dad was a really, really smart, intelligent guy, and he was a nice person as well. Having said that, he was super homophobic, and that was just because from the way that he had been brought up, and all throughout his life, it had been portrayed as a really awful thing. And that's kind of down to us, our generation, to educate the elder generation as to why it's not really such a bad thing. So on the one hand, yes, there probably was this comment, but on the other hand, I think what actually happened is there was probably a lesser comment made, and it was more just a faux pas. Like, they didn't necessarily mean any harm by it, but it was said nonetheless, and it was kind of hurtful. So there's two elements there, and take of it what you will. Having said that, I think they did make a big deal out of it, and I think that they knew that they were doing that. It was quite intentional, and it was meant to kind of hurt the royal family. I also want to draw to your attention to the fact that she is an actress. You know, for the better part of her entire adult life, she has been an actress, and that job is to literally play characters and to trick the general public into believing that she is playing that particular character. With that being said, it was a very soft interview as well. It wasn't very challenging questions posed to them by Oprah, but I love Oprah. And I think that the whole narrative, whilst it was really strong and very alluring, I think it was designed to hurt the royal family. And I think that slips people's minds quite a lot of the time. They don't necessarily think the fact that she is an actress and that is kind of what she is made to do. There are also a few just ridiculous points that were made that were blown up by the media. So I think Kate made Meghan cry, or Meghan made Kate cry, and that was just some whole big ordeal, which is absolutely ridiculous. Come on, you guys are both adults. That should not be making mainstream media. And if it is, you really need to sort out some issues within your life. And there was also a part in which Harry was portraying how he was let down by his father. I actually completely agree with that. The guy is a bit of a prick, and he's always been a bit of a prick, so I completely side with Harry on that. There was also this thing with Meghan bullying some of the staff members within the castle. I don't really think there is much evidence to this, and I think it was just a really good media opportunity for the royal family, and they didn't really want to miss it because they knew something was coming and it was going to be super bad. And the last thing is that she claims she didn't do any research into the royal family before she married into it. I mean, I think that's just a little bit silly. Why wouldn't you do any research into the family that you are marrying into, especially when it's such a big deal? She didn't know what the role was going to include. I find that really, really difficult to believe. She should have done some research. I would have done a little bit of research at least. So I think that's really, really silly of her not to do that. Lastly, I just want to touch on how awesome I think Oprah was. I think it's tragic that she no longer does the Oprah Winfrey Show. Obviously, we as a generation are kind of lost. I did actually do a little bit of research into how she conducts herself as an interviewer. She does two things really, really well. The first is empathy. So whenever she hears anything shocking, she'll actually go and delve into it a little bit deeper. Whereas if you or I often hear something shocking, we'll kind of stand back a little bit, but she'll actually lean into it and comfort the person and allow them to explore that narrative a little bit more. And obviously not during COVID, but she would normally use touch, like a comforting pat on the back or a touch of the hand, to show that compassion and further kind of draw that person into that narrative that she wants them to kind of conduct herself. But yeah, I love Oprah and I think she did an amazing job. So in conclusion, I don't really have a negative opinion of the royal family. And as I said before, I think they're a brilliant tourist attraction and they bring in more money to the state than we pay for them. So I definitely am not for the abolition of the royal family at all. I also have a massive amount of respect for them because I think their job is really, really difficult. They're under a microscope all the time with all of the world's media. I think that's a really, really hard job. And they are people just like us, and everybody makes mistakes sometimes. So I think we need to be a little bit less heavy-handed, especially in the media, of our portrayal of people when we set such high expectations of them. However, what I'm a little annoyed with is the fact that they didn't really learn from any of their mistakes. So for instance, this would have been a really great opportunity for the royal family to be a little bit more diverse, but actually they didn't really say anything about that. They could have said, look, we acknowledge that we didn't really play our part here and we could have done something to make them feel a little bit more welcome. That would have been a really good idea. But actually they've just gone on the full defensive. So if they had said, you know, I did X, Y, Z wrong and we're going to learn from this in the future, I'd respect them a lot more. But I'm a little bit annoyed that they didn't actually at least admit anything. Annoyingly for you, I don't actually have a bad opinion of Harry and Meghan either. I think if anyone is making you do something that you don't want to do, it is up to you to make a decision to change your life. And that is exactly what they've done. What I will say is that if someone is pushing you into doing something and you want to do something differently, fine, but you don't need to do an interview that is broadcast to, you know, billions of people around the world slating the royal family. I think they could have done it in a slightly better way. They probably did that to earn a little bit of money, and they have earned a lot of money. I think they've got a Spotify and a Netflix deal out of this. So they could have probably gone about it in a better way. Thanks for staying to the end of this video. I really appreciate it. Make sure to smash that like button and comment down below if you want to see some similar content. Until next time.